Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bhedu Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Gukarastu Andhikaro Vai Rukarastu Nivartakaha Andhikara Nirodhitvat Gururitya Vidhiyate Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So we are doing Anuvaka number 5, and last time we were looking at the word Nilagrivaya. Hey Ishvara, hey Rudra, my namaskara to you in the form of your blue neck. So we were going over the significance of the blueness of the neck. So if you recall, we had said that there would be two aspects of it, and so these are not or, they are more like and. In other words, it's not like you can if you don't like this way, you can look at it that way. That's not the way it is. Both aspects are important. So the first aspect we saw was that of Dayaluta, the kindness of Ishvara. It is signified by the fact that Shiva decided that he has to please both sides. He has to please his consort in the form of Prakriti, who says that if you destroy the very Prakriti itself, then everything will be lost. But he also had a soft corner for his bhaktas, who said, please, can you please take these, otherwise we cannot survive. And so he took this visham, this poison, and held it in such a manner that neither one of them were really harmed. And so this is an expression of his kindness, Dayaluta. So the word used often is Ashutoshaha. So the Ashutoshaha means that one who is pleased very quickly. The example that we have been using quite often is that of an errant son who has repeatedly belied the confidence of his parents and continues to do things that should not be done, and they're very annoyed with him, and they really have been punishing him for that. But then somehow something his demeanor changes, and he says, I have figured out what I was doing wrong, and I am not going to take drugs anymore. And I really, because he has said that before also many times, and the parents had a record of it, but something triggered in the minds of the parents that this time he is very sincere. And so with the respect to that, they cannot say, well, you have done 10 times, you have deceived us, so we cannot. They said, okay, everything is forgotten and you're okay the way you are. This is called Ashutosha. Ashutosha means very quickly satisfied. Doesn't take much time. So this was the first way of looking at Nilakantha. And I said that we were going to look at another way, which we didn't get time today, and which is now here. So here, Swami Maheswaranji has given a very beautiful example, I think, as part of, I believe this is part of his public lectures, where I think we're going to come to it. So I won't really spend much time then. I might as well bring it here as part of this context. So he says, take a look at this phenomena where a mother has a very beautiful child that everybody admires and say, wow, how did you get such a beautiful child? This is so wonderful. She's the most good looking one out of the many that we have seen recently. And the mother, when this kind of a praise is given to the mother, you know what a mother normally would respond to it? She won't really smile and say, I'm so proud that came out of my tummy and it's all part of that. No. She's much more concerned about the ongoing health and well-being of the child. She also knows this thing called, which is called in India, called drishti. In the southern part of India, and in the northern part, at least some parts of northern part, the one Punjab that I came from, they would say nazar. Usko nazar lag gayi hai. And so that means that somehow in the praise of the child, there's also a how could this have happened? These guys are so lucky, they get good children and good money and so on and so forth. How is that possible? So it's a little bit of a criticism of that, if there's a better word than criticism, but anyway, so this is called nazar. So you know what the mothers do? What the mothers do is they have this very black ointment or some powder with water. They put on below the eyes and some other places and so on and so forth. And this is meant to draw the attention of the people towards this black or dark black, generally black or dark gray paint, sort of like a paint on the face of the child, so that the beauty of the child is kept hidden from the people. Yeah, the word I was looking for was disparaging. So it becomes disparaging that, oh my gosh, how come this child is so beautiful? So all the mothers do this, is not all, but many of the mothers do, and they put this called drishti. This is the explanation given by Maheshanandji. Now, what happens is, so the Nilakantha, the blueness of the neck is a kind of a drishti. So what do you mean by a kind of drishti for Shiva, and how does it apply to Shiva? Here's how it applies. If you look at the entire cosmos, it consists of two things. One is the purity of the cosmos, the nature of the cosmos, which is in the form of deathlessness, timelessness, continuity, joy, unconditionality, unconditioned by anything, independence. This is what is called Divi. So when we say Divya Purushaha, this is called Divi. So this is the Atma, this is the Paramatma. And so the whole, the whole cosmos is of that nature. Very beautiful. This is the Shiva. But then there is another aspect of Shiva, which is the expression of this in the form of limitations. And limitations also mean transactions, imperfections, tragedy, disappointments, as it happens in our life. And the two of them are really kind of, so the disappointments and the limitations, the smallness of the human being, etc., are superimposed upon the purity and the independence and the joy. They're superimposed. Just like the Nilakantha is superimposed upon a resplendent body of Shiva. Okay? Now, so one last thing aspect of that, and I'll have to go on because there's a lot of explanation for this. What happens is that our human intellect does not easily appreciate the purity and the independence of ourselves. That we don't do. Why not? Because it is hidden from us, because our vision, our drishti goes into this small aspect of Ishvara, which is a very small aspect of Ishvara. I was reminded in the Purusha Suktam, it says, Padauhu asya vishwa bhutani. It means that a small portion of the Vishwa is the Vishwa can be taken here as cosmos, is the Bhutani. Bhutani means all the things that are visible to us. So these are a small padaha. This is just a small parshaha. Tripadartha. Tripadasya amritan divi. Oh, the word divi comes here. So he says that really the purity and the beauty of Ishvara is enormous, very much like the example of that of a space and the room space, Ghatakasha versus Mahakasha. So the Ghatakasha is a very small part of the Akasha. The Mahima, the grandeur of Akasha is just amazing. And really, wherever the whole cosmos is, supposing you have a galaxy which is 3 trillion light years away. That means their light will not come to you in 3 trillion years. Very strange places, so far away. Akasha is there also. They have to depend on Akasha. Akasha means with all the strong forces and the weak forces of magnetism and etc. are all there as well. Sound, there as well. Akasha is everywhere, infinite. And all we are really focused in on is our smallness, our room and so on. So this is the second aspect of Nilagrivam. So again, to summarize, the Nilagrivaha means number one is Ashutoshaha, is Dayaluta. The second one is that it mistakenly arrests our attention towards the visible, and the subtlety of the invisible one is lost on us. So these are the two things about Nilagriva. Anyway, let's go on. There's so much more to cover. Oh yeah, another thing. So then the next one is Shitikantaha. Shitikantaha means one which is white, pure in that sense. So Nilagrivaha Shitikantaha. So here Swami Maheshanji very beautifully points out Another way to look at both of these words together is Nilakantaha is the Adhyaropa and Shitikantaha is Apavada. Right? So Adhyaropa is the one which is superimposed, the blackness around the eyes is superimposed. Supposing you have otherwise the child has a lighter color skin, and so that would be Shitikantaha. But then the Nilakantaha is the blackness of which what arrests your attention. So similarly, Adhyaropa apavadabhyam nishpapancham prapanchate. This is how Vedanta teaches that the whole world is really a superimposition upon yourself. It does not have any independent existence. Its existence is superimposed upon yourself. And so the Satyam Jnanam Anantam which is the Atma, that is the Apavada, that is where the Adhyaropa has been removed. This is the pure part of it. And so the Nilakanta and Shitikantaha also represent Adhyaropa and Apavada. Okay. Next is Kapardinahacha Vyuptakeshaya. So here, and I'll have to just go through much more quickly because we cannot afford to spend that much time on each one aspect of it. I have so much to cover. So Kapardinaha means the ones with the matted hair. And Vyuptakeshaya means one who has not a blade of hair on the head. Okay, so both of them. So this can be looked at in different ways. That really, so this is also Sarva Vyapakatvam, means that Ishvara is both in this way and in that way. Opposite ways also it is there in both of them. And so that can be taken one way. But here, there is a bit better significance of that. So Kapardinaha, matted hair, means a sannyasi. So you find many of the sannyasi, they don't have time or the opportunity to cut their hair. They don't. They are just, like those of us who are in urban dwellers, we have to go for a haircut to the local barber shop. And I have to shave. I choose to shave. I choose not to have this long beard and so on and so forth. So I have to cut. But a sannyasi just lets the hair grow. So what? You just tie it up in matted hair and so on. That's it. And this is what the Sikh religion, they've taken it to the extreme, where they prohibit people from cutting the thing. Hinduism doesn't have these do's and don'ts and so on like some of the other religions do. We say you don't need to. It's okay the way you are. But if you want to do it, that's okay too. So this is called the matted hair. Vyuptakeshaya represents what is called Mundi Jnanam. Mundi Jnanam means that they don't even, as you know, when you have a brahmachari, you keep it what is called a choti. So one tuft of the hair is left and everything else is shaved off. Why is it shaved off? This is an interesting to see. So really speaking, a sannyasi or a brahmachari rather, not sannyasi but brahmachari, is asked to remove the hair. And eventually they do completely. Why? Because our sense of ego is very much involved with our hair. So I have a friend who is very wealthy, very well-to-do, and he's a couple of years younger than me. And so about 10 or 12 years ago, he said, I'm going in for a hair transplant on my head. So they take out all the hair from his legs and all kinds of places, and they transplant it. And it takes a long time. They have to do it one hair at a time, and it's painful, and you have to plug all kinds of things he had to do. So I asked him, I said, why are you going through all this? He says, I don't like baldness. I see myself with hair, and I don't like my own idea of being bald. Okay, all right, fine. And so it is instructed to the brahmacharis that remove your hair. Even women also, because the women, even more than men, because they have more hair, are much more conscious, self-conscious of how I look. All the women, they get their hair do and so on. So anyway, so vyupta keshaya means, so here now, just to summarize, I'm spending too much time. Kapardinaha represents a sannyasi who is still learning. This is what is called vividisha sannyasi. Vividisha sannyasi means veditum ichcha sannyasi. Just like you, I also are veditum ichcha, we also want to know what's going on, so we study. His sannyasis also are studying, perhaps studying more often than you and I do, but studying. But they haven't got the understanding yet, they're still on the path to do so. Vyupta keshaya represents a vidvat sannyasi. Vidvat sannyasi. So vividisha sannyasi and vidvat. What is vidvat? Vidvat means the one who has understood everything. And so the Shiva is, so this is a very beautiful thing. I think we'll in here and some of the other ones. So the Kapardinaha may represent sadhana, and Vyuptakeshaya represents sadhya. Sadhya means the one which is to be accomplished, the goal, the reaching. Whereas sadhana means on the way. So both of them, sadhana and sadhya, Shiva alone is my support. To reach Shiva also I need his support, instructions on how to get there, and finally getting there and feeling very happy is also nothing but the gift of Shiva alone. So this is the understanding of it. Then next one is Girishaya Shipivishtaya. So again, there's not that much to talk about here. So Girishaya can be done can be interpreted in two ways. One is one who is on the top of a mountain, and so in the Himalayas, all the Mahapurusha, they live in all the Mahatmas, all the Rishis were known to reside on the peaks of the mountains. It's just quiet and very pleasant and so on. So Girishaya. Or Giri also represents the human body. So the one who resides not only in the mountains but also in each human body is called Girishaya. Shipivishtaya means really Vishnu. This is the form of Rudra and the form of Vishnu. All pervasiveness. So Shipis means raise, and Vish means to pervade. It's a very beautiful thing to see how this is done. So in a very limited way, you see the light being generated by the sun, which is radiated out by the rays, and it encompasses the whole living area around the sun. Because the whole world is populated by suns in the form of stars. So they are the generators of the light. But the light very quickly is given to all around you, not only in one direction. And what a creation by Ishvara, really. I mean, you see how the whole thing is so intelligently done. I would even say that you can just meditate on just the concept of light. This is Vishnu. So unless there is light, life cannot be sustained. Cannot be sustained. Imagine there's no light. It's not only the sunlight, but no other battery light. It is a complete darkness. Can any transactions happen? No. So the very basis of the transaction, kind of like the mother of experiences, is light, and it is really all pervasive. All pervasive, and then you can block it. Like, for example, in this room, if I were to turn off all of the lights inside the room and also put curtains around all the windows and doors and so on, then within the all-pervasiveness of the light, I can block it in this small room that I'm sitting in. That's possible. But that's like a human blocking. But the natural all-pervasiveness is that of Rudra, of Shiva. And so Shipivishtaya means one which is all-pervasive. It is given in various different ways, not just this one. Then next one is Midustamaya Cheshu Matecha. So Midustamaya represents Brahmaji, the very firstborn of Ishvara. Brahmaji. Now it is not Brahman, but Brahmaji. The Chaturmukha represents the four Vedas, the very firstborn of the whole creation, whose body is like that of a visible body, and whose mind is all-pervasive mind. And so Hiranyagarbha is the mind, and the Brahmaji is the body. So Midustamaya, I won't go into the derivation of it. There is a Sanskrit derivation on how Brahmaji becomes Midushtama. And so Brahmaji. Then Cheshumatecha. So Cheshumatecha means the one who is also pervasive as the purity in everyone. So this is called, also called Ishumate. Ishumate means the one who holds the issue. Issue means issue means the arrow. We've already talked about this previously. So the human being is like an arrow. Remember, we had seen in the earlier parts of Sri Rudram that we should take ourselves to be an arrow which has to be honed in the hands of Ishvara. So I become sharp to reach the target. This is called issue. Issue means an arrow. And our life's goal should be to allow myself to be shaped by Ishvara in such a manner that I become sharp. Otherwise, supposing you have a person who is actually mounting the arrow on the dhanush and trying to release it so that it reaches its target, if the arrow is ruffled and not really done very well, it won't pierce through the air very well. And so the arrow has to be polished and cut and has to be sharply made, then it becomes an instrument in the hand of Ishvara. So this is what we are saying is that, so the issue is the Sharo hi Atma. There is all this has a, Swami Maheshananji gives all these references from the Shruti. It's not of his own ideas. No, these are all come from the Shruti. Sharo hi Atma. So Sharaha means it is it's a issue, means it's an arrow. So Ishumat, Ishuman is the one who has the arrow. And which one is that? That the Shuddhatma. Because really what is, where the arrow resides, where the arrow is in the consciousness alone. Consciousness alone. This needs to be really thought about. You know, it's very interesting. It looks like, if you don't look into it, it looks like the body is the noun and the consciousness is a property of the noun. It's kind of like a personality of the person. The person, the real person. It's kind of like, you know, supposing you have a flower of rose flower. Then the rose is the flower and the redness is the property of the rose. So similarly, our feeling is that I am the body and consciousness is one of my properties. This is how it looks like. It's totally opposite of what it is. So the Vastu, the person, is the conscious Atma. And it's kind of like the space. And then the conception of the human being as a mind, body, senses and so on is held together by the Atma. So as Ishumate means that the arrow is being held together by the Atma. What did I do? Oh, my water is over there. I didn't put it in. So here in Mi Dushtumaya Cheshumatecha, really, so all of that is really covered. Sa Brahma Sa Harihi Sendra Sokshara Paramaswarat. And so all of that is included in these two. Then the next one is Hrasvaya Vamanaya. Then Brihatecha Varshiyasecha. So there we have already seen this in previous ones. So Hrasvaya means Hrasvaya and Vamanaya. Hrasva means very small, very small. And Vamana, it also is a very small person. You can say Vamana is a, so Hrasva means the very nature of smallness, and Vamana means the expression of smallness in the form of a midget, let's say. So this is very interesting. You find that a complete body, hands, head, and and legs and stomach are all there, but all in 1.5 feet. Really, when you look at a midget, it's really an amazing thing. You think that everybody has to really grow up to be a 6-footer and so on, but no, you have a completely functional human being in the form of Vamana. So here, Hrasvaya and Vamanaya are both indicative of the smallness in the creation. Then the next one is Brihatecha Varshiyasecha. So now if you look at all 4 of them together, Hrasvaya, Vamanaya being representing the smallness, and Brihatecha Varshiyasecha represents the bigness. So here you can say a big body or the oldest person, Varshiyasecha. So from a baby to an old person is really nothing but the expression of Shiva alone. And here we saw the Puranic story where Vamana appeared, so Vishnu appeared as a very small person, kind of like a midget. And so there was a king called Bali, and Bali he was both a great bhakta of Ishvara, and also he had a lot of bad qualities. So he would really do a lot of damage to the people around him and so on. And so all the devas all appealed to Ishvara and said, I don't remember the exact devata they went to, I'm not that conversant with it, I just have the overall sense of it. They went to Ishvara and said, please do something for us. This Bali is really bothering everybody. He's killing a lot of people, damaging a lot of things and so on. Can you please come? And so Vishnu appears in the form of a Vamana. And so Vamana approaches Bali and said, sir, you are a great king, and I'm just a small citizen in your kingdom. And I'm told that you never really disappoint anyone that comes to you with something to give. I have 3 things that I'm looking for. Okay, 3 boons. And so he said, so what do you need? She says, I just need 3 spaces. 3 spaces. So the king said, oh, you're just a midget, you don't need much space, sure. So Bali had a person who was a wise person, who was his advisor. And he whispered in the ears of Bali, and he says, no, this is a trick. I don't believe that he is what he is. I wouldn't give it to him. So Bali said, this is exactly what happens. You have such ego, and you say, just shut up, okay? This poor guy has asked for 3 things and so on. And how can you refuse that? Let him go. How much is he going to take? He's 2 feet tall, so 3 of them, 6 feet of ground that's no problem. So he says, Tathastu, okay, let it be. Then Vamana, who was really Vishnu, expanded his strength, his stature. Expanded his stature. He was Vishnu. And how big is Vishnu? He's infinite. He's infinite. And so I think, I'm not quite sure of it, but I think that he covered the entire sthula sharira of the Vishwa of the whole cosmos, and also the subtle aspect of the whole cosmos. and there was still the third one left. And then he said, where should I put this? So he smashed the very head of Bali, smashed the head of the Bali with his power. So there is a great significance to all this. It's a very beautiful story, really. I can just visualize it. So what it represents is that if we don't, as long as our ego of who we are keeps its head up, and I structure my life based on my ego. Ego means, we're not talking about the traditional understanding of ego. Ego means, this is who I am. This is much. I may not be perfect, but this is what I am. This is me. This is just me. And I have some qualities. I have I'm born at a particular place. I've got a family. I've got some property, and this is what I am. So this is kind of like a smallness. This is called Vamana. But if we can smash the head of this ego, somebody said, listen, you are not this small. Do you know who you really are? You are the wholeness of the whole world. You are not the smallness of a human being. You are in fact the very basis of. And I said, no, how can that be? Trust me. Trust me. You look into it, and in fact what it is you are already Ishwaras. You are the very form of Vishnu. But you take yourself to be a smallness. Give yourself smallness up. And you don't have to acquire the bigness. The bigness is already yours. And it's being held together. It's kind of like, open up the windows and you find that the light of Vishnu is there already, all over. This is the significance of these four. Rasvaya, Vamanaya on the smallness, and Brihatecha, Varshiyasecha is the bigness. All through a proper understanding of the big mistake that I make about who I am and so on. Here it is also pointed out that that the Jagrat, waking, Swapna, dream, and Sushupti, which is deep sleep, is the Vamana. The Vamana. So the experiences of the waking state, which is already limited, we know. How can you say it is limited? Because it does not even inhere, if that's the right word I think to use, I think it is the right word to use. It is not inherent in your dream. See, this is a very beautiful thing to see. An important thing to see, not just beautiful, but something important to see. How limited is your worldly experiences? Oh, I've got some work to do, and then I have some classes to teach. I'm a yoga teacher, I'm a Vedanta teacher, and I'm learning, and I have to pay my mortgage. All these kinds of things. You think that this is permanent or somehow it is long lasting. It is not. So limiting it is that even for a few hours at night time, there is no reality to it. You go into a completely different world of dreams. It has its own problems. own triumphs, own experiences. So the two of them are mutually exclusive. You see, this is an important thing to see. See, they are mutually exclusive. If they were not mutually exclusive, then you know what will happen? That your experiences of a waking life will stay in the dream. And there may be something superimposed on top of that from the dream experience. That would not be mutually exclusive. But it is. So the dream experiences pushes out the waking experience, pushes out completely, violates it, takes over. And when you have a sleep, deep sleep, it does the same thing. It pushes out the Jagrat Avastha, pushes out the Swapna Avastha. So this is how limited they are. This is how small they are. We think they are very big, but they are not. They are very small. So that's why it is called Vamana. And then as the Shastra says, that all three of them are nothing but states of consciousness. They are states of consciousness. States of consciousness means that they are an expression of consciousness. They are like three roles. Like a role is a state of acting. And so the acting cannot be by itself. It has to be based on the actor. Actor is the real one. And the various roles that the actor plays are nothing but a superimposition. And so those are the Vamana. Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti are the Vamana. Turiya, the consciousness, is the Brihat, is the one who is the big one. So beautiful sections. All right, I think I have covered these two. See for some time. Then next one is Vriddhaya cha samvriddhvane cha. So Vriddhaya cha again means the so Vriddhaya means to the old one. Old one means the one who was there even before the creation of the cosmos. So whenever you say, what a lovely thing to see, that really without our father and mother, we wouldn't be there. They are elder to us. They are the ones who started. Now, of course, they have left our lives, at least at my age. But really, it was all started by them. And so if you keep on going, and so then their father, their mother, their father, their mother, all the way up to Vriddha means the very beginning of this creation, within the creation, is Vriddhaya. Then Samvriddhvane cha. So there is a Dhvanaha means the Jnana Rupaha. So again, this gets to be a little technical, but it really just means that one which has been, one which is made apparent through the knowledge of consciousness. Really, this is the thing that we have to really come back to, is that without my consciousness, nothing can be. So whenever I say me, this is a superimposition of myself on the consciousness. Consciousness is always there, unchanging. So everything is superimposed on it. Anyway, there is a technical explanation of samvridvana, which I am going to neglect at this point, so we won't cover that. Then agriyaya cha prathamaya cha. Similar, this is just a hammering of this prathama, means the one which was in the very beginning, Anandamurtihi. Then agriyaya cha means before anything else. Atma eva idam agre asit. So in the Upanishad, same thing, agriyaya cha prathamaya cha. So this prathamaya thing is an interesting one. This is, let's just look at that part of it. So the question is, how am I going to get a direct vision of the Ishvara? Excuse me. I think these are allergies, I don't know. How am I going to get a full direct experience of joy? How am I going to do that? So it is said that Ishvara somehow in your life presents you as a moment of joy. And as we are doing in this Tuesday night class on the Ananda analysis, so when you get some limited Ananda, you are now attracted towards it and says, that was a wonderful experience. How do I get more of it? You see, so at first a small experience is given to you so that your sense of Shraddha and you're leading to the ultimate. So it's kind of like a small light appears and says, yeah, I want to do this. Here Swami Maheshananji gave a beautiful example. He said, look at this. Supposing you were an insect drawn towards a light, which is what happens. All the insects are drawn towards light. They all go towards light. Now, how does that happen? So what happens is that when the insect opens its eyes, the light of the source of light strikes the eye. So realistically speaking, the insect is following up the light of his eyes. Really speaking, this is exactly what happens. So at first a small speck of light appears in the light of the insect. And the insect says, I like it. I want to go towards it. And then it just moves around and follows the reflection of the light in its own eyes. That's all it does. And if it's sincere about it, it reaches the light and touches it. Similarly, he says it's the situation that a small amount of ananda is given to you, and then you begin to say, my gosh, where did this joy come from? And as we will see in much more detail in the Tuesday night Ananda class of Panchadashi, we don't realize that Ananda is invoked in myself. So all it does is, so when you eat an ice cream, why the ice cream seems so pleasant? There is no happiness in the ice cream, but the ice cream invokes the happiness which is already in me. The happiness doesn't have a weight. It doesn't have a form. It doesn't have a shape. It doesn't have any color. But what happens is there are various ways to bring that out. And ice cream is only one of them. And so when that happens, my own happiness expresses itself and I feel very pleasant, I feel very joyful. Not realizing that it is already in me, I think it is in the ice cream. So in the beginning, my analysis, this is the whole explanation of the Prathama. So in the beginning, Prathama means in the beginning. In the beginning, it appears as something outside of me. But if I follow the directions, then I realize that, my God, it is nothing but me alone. So this is the beautiful explanation of this word. Where are we? I think we can finish the Anuvaka 5, just a couple of more. Ashavecha Ajirayacha. So again, Ashave means one which is all pervasive. Asamantat Ash. Means Asamantat means total, and Ash means to pervade. One which totally pervades. So the Akasha, the space is totally pervasive, not partially pervasive. Because its nature is pervasiveness. It's not borrowed pervasiveness, it's its own nature. And then Ajirayacha. Ajirayacha means one which is very swiftly moving. It is both all pervasive as well as very swiftly moving. So swiftly moving means that just because it is all pervasive doesn't mean that it cannot move. It cannot move. Beautiful example. Supposing you are in a car and you're driving at 70 miles an hour, and so the car space is very swiftly moving, but it's not moving because it is the same space. The space cannot move, but if you were to modify the contours of the space, then within the non-moving space, it moves. It moves. So suppose how does the car space move? So supposing you take a camera of the outside roadside, and you can say, okay, all right, I have my camera on, and if somebody sees the film of the camera, you will see I'm starting from San Jose, then I go to Sunnyvale. You can see the signs outside. You can even point it out to all the road signs. Sunnyvale, 3 miles away. Mountain View. Los Altos. And so on, all the way up to San Francisco. So that means you are moving. But were you really moving? No. Similarly, Shigriyaya very quickly moves. Here, Shigriyaya represents the mind. There is nothing faster moving than the mind. Just think about it and just immediately you're there. And dvipyayacha, all these kinds of, I don't have the exact words, but all these ones. So it talks about both the swiftness and the non-swiftness, the moving and the non-moving. So in the last part, this is very interesting. Let me actually read the ones. Nama Shigriyaya cha Shibhyaya cha Nama Urmyaya cha Vasvanyaya cha Nama Srotasyaya cha Dvipyaya cha. So these are the various water bodies, rivers, ponds, a little island, swiftness of the movement of the water, etc. So here, I think one of the acharyas, one of the teachers, had given us a very beautiful. This is I really find this to be very good for meditation. So if you look at, suppose you look at your thoughts as waterfall flowing. Water flowing. Thoughts flowing means water flowing. Just visualize it that. So just like a simple, same water has so many different forms. It has rivers. It has a pond. It can be muddied. It's moving, non-moving, all those kinds of things. Similarly is our mind. So you visualize your mind as nothing but rivers of thoughts, how it is going, and you are aware of this. And then when your mind is suppose stationary, or a small island, then it starts to move again. This provides you with a vantage point to differentiate your mind from yourself. You observe the flow of it just like you observe the flow of water in various forms. So from here, this point, Shigriyayacha, etc., all the way up to Dipyayacha, is really Shiva's ability to take the form of water in its various forms, as it is in taking the form of your own thoughts as rivers. I think this is a very useful thing to meditate on. So just visualize that with your eyes closed and just see how your thoughts simulate the flow of water. Okay. So with this, the fifth Anuvaka is now complete, and we will start on the sixth Anuvaka in the next class. So I wind up this class for that. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityor Ma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. I don't expect too many people to be watching the streaming, but let me just double check for just a second. Go to YouTube. Shanti Kumar, Natalia, Pannabhuva, and Jyoti Shekhar. Welcome to all four of you. And I'd like to mention that I'm thinking I'm going to change this to Shanti Kumar. You're not going to like this. I think I have to. Already I'm surprised that you are staying up so long because it must be past midnight in India. But I have to start this class a little bit later because what I find is that I've got a number of things that I do in the morning, including I do my workout, and I run out of time by 11 o'clock. So I do my own study and all that kind of a thing. So most probably I will announce it, but most probably I will do that starting at noon rather than 11 o'clock. Okay, Shanti Kumar, you are in Raleigh, so then you are okay. You are all right. Good. Okay, so I think most probably I will shift it to 1 hour later because most of you are not watching it live anyway. So it shouldn't matter that much, but for my convenience, I'm thinking I'm going to still move around a little bit and do this probably around noon for next time. So with that, I close this class. Hopefully, I'll see you next week. Hari Om.